right, good evening, everyone. Want to call the Caldwell County Board of Commissioners meeting to order for February the 10th, 2025. I'd like to welcome those who are in our audience and attendance here this evening, as well as those who are joining us by other media means. And so we appreciate you coming and appreciate your interest in being here this evening. Our first item, we're going to have Mr. Jonathan Cook come up and lead us in our invocation, and we'll follow that with our Pledge of Allegiance, and Commissioner Donnie Potter will lead us in that. So welcome, Jonathan.
Hey, consider this a high honor being able to come and pray tonight and be here with you, especially after the last 15 years of working here. It's been a blessing, I can say, for be here, and I can say at the end of the day, I've gave my all. And I appreciate this county and everything, all the opportunities it's given me. And I look forward to new adventures and being able to serve our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And I'm looking forward to seeing that. But recently, I was sitting there this morning, before we pray, I saw some changes. I got to thinking, we have a lot of changes in our country recently, good changes. We've seen Donald Trump be elected president. And, I feel like, no matter how much value you put in him and how much good he will do, that we most likely will, he's still just a man. And at the end of the day, what we need is we need a Savior, and we need Jesus. And what our county, our state, and our country needs is a revival, and it needs to start with us. And it can start with us. I think of 2 Chronicles 7:14 when I think of that. And it says, if my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land. I know it starts with us. And each and every person here and every person available needs to be praying for our county, our state, and our country daily. And if we always put God first, we'll never fail. Amen. We'll never fail. Thank you. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for allowing us to come here tonight, Father. Father, thank you for the many opportunities that you've given us. Thank you for the mercy and for the grace. Thank you for your protection and your love. I thank you, Jesus Christ, for your only begotten Son. I thank you for the Holy Spirit that dwells in me. I thank you for the cross of Calvary and the Savior that was willing to die for us. So whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. I pray, Father, for you grant wisdom and strength and courage to do what is right to the commissioners sitting in front of us. Father, I pray for protection for them. I pray you look over them on any type of decisions that need to be made. Father, I pray for each and every administration for Caldwell County, each department head, each supervisor, each employee. Father, look over and protect them. Give them guidance and let them place you first in their life. Father, I pray for every citizen and every visitor that comes to Caldwell County. Father, look over them. Give them peace and protection. But Father, more than anything, I pray they call upon you as their Lord and Savior and they know you. Father, look over us, lead and guide us in all that we do. Thank you for your Son. And it's in Jesus' bloodstained name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Please face the flag. Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you, everyone. I think we've got some agenda amendments, and so Mr. Wayne Rash.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, a couple of changes, amendments to the agenda. The first is adding an item 2A, a resolution honoring Black History Month, and that'll be there at 2A. Then striking number 4 from the agenda, and striking number 18 from the agenda. And then adding, we'll just call it number 23 at the bottom of the consent agenda, adding the appointment of Heather Cox as a Deputy Finance Director so that for the purpose of signing purchase orders. So, Mr. Chairman, that's the amendments.
All right. So hearing the amendments, do I hear a motion we adopt this evening's agenda as presented?
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept this evening's agenda as the Assistant County Manager has presented.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that motion carries. Our first item on the agenda is a resolution honoring Dr. Roger Lim, that he is unable to be, his family is unable to be here this evening. And so we want to go ahead and adopt the resolution and then we'll present it to him at a future meeting. So I'll make a motion that we adopt the resolution honoring Dr. Roger Lim this evening. Is there any other discussion or comment about that? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that carries unanimously as well. Our next item is a resolution to honor County Attorney David Lackey. And Mr. Lackey's here. I see him in the audience. And so Vice Chairman LaBrose is going to read the resolution for us this evening. So listen up, David. It's got a lot of good stuff in there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This resolution is Caldwell County Resolution of Appreciation for David Stephen Lackey of 43 years of service. Whereas David Lackey has served the citizens of Caldwell County for 43 years. Upon graduating cum laude with a Bachelor of Arts degree in philosophy from Duke University in 1977. David worked for the National Association of Attorneys General. David obtained a Juris Doctorate from the University of North Carolina School of Law in 1981. He began working in the private practice in Caldwell County in 1981. And whereas David was appointed Caldwell County Attorney on November 5th, 1990, serving until December 21st, 2024. David is the longest-serving county attorney in memory with 34 years of service. He was dedicated to his position as county attorney, providing legal services in all manners, including special legislation, personnel, eminent domain, public utilities, environmental law, code enforcement, land use planning and zoning, animal control, contract law, public health, building inspections, liability insurance, railroads, and chairing multiple quasi-judicial hearings for the board. And whereas David led innovations in ordinances and legal operations of Caldwell County, he worked through significant challenges with the county landfill. He completed the first economic development project of its kind between the county and Merchants Distributor Incorporated. And after months of significant toil, concluded the county's economic development project with Google Incorporated in 2006. And whereas David served as chairman of the committee charged with the construction of the current county jail. David's leadership on this committee led to the construction of a well-researched, innovative, and effective jail facility. And whereas David was admitted to the North Carolina bar in 1981, he is an attorney of renown in Caldwell County and the 36th Judicial District. David is a member of the Caldwell County Bar Association, where he has twice served as president. He is also a member of the 36th Judicial District Bar Association, where he has served as president. David has argued before the North Carolina Supreme Court and North Carolina Court of Appeals. And whereas David has served for 10 years on the board of directors of the Armorum, formerly Caldwell Hospice and Palliative Care. He has served as vice chairman of the board and has served on the executive committee for upwards of 5 years. And whereas David has remarked that it has been a significant honor to serve as Caldwell County Attorney. David has enjoyed working with many commissioners, 8 county managers, many department heads, and staff of the county. And whereas David credits his parents for his success. Their hard work in the furniture industry and determination for their children to succeed led to his successful education and career as an attorney. David also credits his longtime partner and tremendous mentor, Hugh Wilson, who he has worked with since 1985. And whereas in recognition of his service to the law and the people of Caldwell County, the commissioners shall place David Stephen Lackey's portrait in the Caldwell County Courthouse. Now, therefore be resolved, on behalf of the citizens of Caldwell County, the county commissioners publicly commend David Stephen Lackey for his 43 years of faithful service to the citizens of Caldwell County, adopted this 10th day of February 2025. Mr. David Stephen Lackey, please come up. David, come up. We've got a plaque here for you that we'd like to present to you.
All right, let's adopt the resolution before we go down. So
All right.
I'll entertain a motion to adopt.
I make the motion that we accept this resolution in honor of David Stephen Lackey.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that carries unanimously. So we'll go down and present it to Mr. Lackey. You'll stand in the center, I'll help you hold it.
One, two, three. One, two, three.
You want anybody else up here?
My wife.
Yeah. Come on up so we can make your picture too. She might be in there.
Can I get a photo for you?
Are you that ashamed of it?
I just know I was gonna have to.
One, two, three.
I'll get a few. Thank you, Dave. Thank you. All right, and next on our agenda, item 2A, is a proclamation in honor of Black History Month. And I think we have a young man here this evening that's going to read that for us. If you would, give us your name.
I can introduce.
Okay.
If I can pronounce the last name.
All right.
I hope I do well with this, but you might need to correct me. Mr. Leonardo Ciambiani, close?
Chimbimuni.
Chimbimuni, sorry.
No
I'm sorry.
worries. On my,
He's
on
the
my-
president of the Caldwell chapter of the NAACP.
All right.
Good evening, everyone. Chair Church, Vice Chair LaBrose, may it please the board. On behalf of the Caldwell County branch of the NAACP, on the 31st of January of this year, we passed a proclamation honoring Black History Month for this year, February 2025. And if it pleases you, I will read our proclamation as we have adopted. Whereas Black History Month is an essential month to reflect upon the profound and overlooked history of Black America, honoring the extraordinary accomplishments and resilient struggles of African Americans throughout the complex history of the United States. And whereas the Association for the Study of African American Life and History have designated the theme for Black History 2025 as African Americans in Labor, compelling us to examine the multifaceted and transformative role of Black labor in shaping the economic, social, and cultural landscape of the United States, North Carolina, and Caldwell County. And whereas Africans were forcibly brought to the Americas to be enslaved and systematically superexploited, dehumanized, and stripped of their fundamental rights by governments who were the beneficiaries of their labor. And whereas Black labor has transformed the United States in a diversity of domains, from agricultural work, industrial labor, professional achievements, to activism that resulted in an economic foundation for our community and country. And whereas Black people played pivotal roles in industries such as healthcare, civic leadership, service, education, manufacturing, agricultural, and were pioneers in their fields to ensure that social progress and economic advancements were possible. And whereas the Caldwell County branch of the NAACP is steadfast in its commitment to achieve equity, political rights, and social inclusion through the advancements of practices and policies that expand human and civil rights, eliminate discrimination, and accelerate the well-being of Black people and all persons of color. And whereas Black Americans and the Black diaspora that resides in the United States remain devoted to the foundational principle that all persons are created equal, as enshrined in the mission charged within the preamble of the United States Constitution, and we all should endeavor to create a more perfect union. And whereas the ongoing struggle for economic justice, workplace equality, and recognition of Black labor continues to be a critical aspect of our community's journey towards genuine inclusivity and mutual respect. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Caldwell County branch of the NAACP hereby proclaim February 2025 as Black History Month to all members and to the county. Focuses Black History Month 2025 on African Americans in labor. Encourages all who resides in Caldwell County to advance the vision of an inclusive community rooted in liberation, where all persons can exercise their civil and human rights without discrimination, barriers, or prejudice. Commit to promoting workplace diversity, supporting Black-owned businesses, and creating opportunities that recognize the inherent dignity and potential of all workers, regardless of race, background, or socioeconomic status. And I say this proclamation to you as the board in hopes that you will consider our proclamation for adoption or working with myself, my executive team, in drafting one. I understand this is the only meeting for February. It is my hopes that we work together for February 2026. It is a good opportunity for us to honor, respect the history, and move forward together. So, thank you, board, for your time, and I yield.
All right. Hearing the proclamation, do I hear a motion that we adopt it this evening?
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the proclamation of February being Black History Month.
All right, in recognition of Black History Month in February 2025, we appreciate you coming this evening. So all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that carries. So thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next, we have a presentation by System 3 Student Ministry.
Thank you, gentlemen, for the opportunity to come and present this to you tonight. Now, we tried to consolidate this a little bit so we won't take up a whole lot of time. But most of you guys, I'm certainly aware of who you are, voted for you, most of you. And some of you have me in here before talking about baseball, because that's what everybody knows Gary Hamby for, baseball. And been in here many times for different baseball situations. Never thought I would be in here with this opportunity in this situation, and that is talking about a ministry that we're so excited about. And I think when I walked in tonight, it's obvious that most people are aware of what's going on with System 3 Ministries. And we brought a packet for each commissioner to take and look at and digest what we're all about. But I'll not take up a lot of time as I give you just a summation or a summary of what we're about. There's a letter in this folder. There's letters from several area churches and the Caldwell Baptist Association, and some others who've been working with us hand in hand for more than a year now. As some of you are very familiar with, we've been putting on rallies and events, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about what these are all about. I had a great opportunity to coach baseball in this county, and when I look around here and see Caldwell County, something I wore on my chest for many, many years. I'm proud of this county and love what it stands for. And now, what we're doing, I just looked at my email. I got an appointment with the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association first of next month, as we're working with them through System 3 on some things that will mightily affect this county and the surrounding area. But when I got out of coaching, I was had a lot of success there, regretting that I didn't do more and use more of the platform I was given to do things more to invest in the character of kids and to promote them. There's one word that I love now, and that's the four-letter word, hope. And we have to, as we're commissioned to bring hope to people who need hope, because without hope, we're in big trouble. So what I saw, I got a coaching, most of you guys know I retired from that, and went back to coaching in the middle schools and travel ball when my grandson went in there. And I started working through the FCA at Hudson Middle School to get people in there to speak during our practices and times. And when they would do that and read scripture, the next day kids were coming back to me and saying, "Coach, can you tell me more about what we heard yesterday?" And I'm saying, okay, let's look at that scripture again. We might probably violated some things by at practice talking about scriptures and looking at the Bible, but we did it anyway. I'm not doing it now because I'm not there now, but that spawned this. What I realized was that these kids, they've been through COVID. Look at TV. Just open your eyes to what they're going through now. And the only thing I could have on my mind, and I go lay my head down every night and think about, these kids need hope. They've got questions. They're faced with things that you and I never had to face. And this world's so crazy now. So System 3 got its birth from that. And I'll just tell you this much about what System 3 means. We're all living in the system of the world, and that is not good because it's controlled by evil. The system of the world is that it's that of Satan. It creates deceitfulness, demise, discord, all those bad things that come out of when you invest in the world. But there is a system, and we know what that is, that produces the hope we're talking about. And that hope is, we hope to represent in System 3. System 3 meaning trusting God, believing in Jesus, and following the Holy Spirit. So we had this grand idea, got a bunch of my friends, ex-coaches, teachers, pastors together. We met one night and we said, okay, here's my thought, guys. Here's what I'm saying. They said, wow, we're thinking the same thing. The next day, in November 2023, we had System 3 going and kicked off rallies right away. So these rallies and these events that we're doing are staged to bring hope, to bring the message of hope, and we bring it through what we call System 3, and that's we want the biblical principles and the Word of Christ taught, presented to these young people to provide the hope, the real hope they need. And as you guys probably well know, it's going awfully well. We had over 2,000 attendees at our 4 rallies in 2024. We had a rally this past Saturday night with 860 people and 25 professions of faith. They were young people. They were at the altar within 15 minutes of us starting. Another thing, some of you were there. We're doing things like this. We're bringing in speakers for instance, the We fed all 3 high school football teams on a Friday night before they played football. Brought in a FCA speaker out of Florida, powerful guy that spoke to each of them. We want to provide things like that that continues to offer that hope that they don't hear anywhere else, probably like they should. So we just want to take up every effort we can, make every opportunity available to us to present hope to a world and some young people and old people that are looking for that. And this has gone so well, guys. And we're so thankful to the churches and the donors and sponsors. We've done fundraisers and we've done everything that we can to come up with ways to promote what we're doing. This coming year, 2025, we're hoping to double or more than double the attendees and the events and what we offer as we try to spread, broaden the chance for people to understand what hope is really all about. And like I said, the key word I started with is hope. That we've got to have hope, and we got to promote that and carry that word out there in a way that offers true opportunity to know that there's more to life than what they're getting in this old system that we got to get them out of. So like I said, there's a wealth of information here we've compacted together. There's a letter. We understood that there was a potential funding grant possibility that we could get through the county because this costs a lot of money. At our rallies, we give away food. We feed everybody that comes. We feed the football teams on occasion. We're going to do that more this year. We give away free T-shirts to everybody that comes. We want to get them there, then let them hear about the hope that is so real in the biblical principles in the Word of Jesus Christ. So that's what we're after. And again, plenty going on here tonight, so I'm going to cut it short, but always available to take phone calls, answer questions. But we're excited about the opportunity and the future of what we're doing, and we're looking for ways that we can work with whoever's available to us in any way we can to broaden this, to strengthen what we're doing. So we're here tonight asking for your help and your support and your encouragement in what we're doing. And we'll leave it with the information that's in here. Certainly appreciate the opportunity for the time. But some of you, like I said, are already aware. I think most of you are of what we're doing, but we're excited to collaborate with you going forward if we can. So I do appreciate it, gentlemen.
Yes,
For
sir.
the time.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. I will say, I want to thank you for all you're doing because you can absolutely see it and you can feel it happening.
Thank you.
It's
Thank you,
there.
Ronnie.
You're doing some good, great work, so keep up the
appreciate
good
it.
work.
We're so grateful for what's
Yes.
happening.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Yes,
you.
sir. All right, so
Oh,
you gonna play a video?
I thought there was something wrong with me. I did my best, tried everything that my counselor said. Put in the work, talked to myself, checked all the boxes, all of the steps. Still didn't help, still didn't help. And after headaches and night breaks and mistakes and heartaches, when you came, it changed. And all the deep hurts and deep wounds, in time they led me to you, just you. And this is my heart. My spirit becoming whole again. This is where dreams begin. Fire burning deep within. I'm spiraling down to a love I found. Though I'm far from here, there's light up ahead. I believe my heart is on the mend. You know I do all the things that I do. You know I say all the things that I say. still tell me I'm okay. And after headaches and bad breaks and mistakes and heartaches, when you came, it changed. And all the deep hurts and deep wounds, in time they led me to you, just you. And this is my heart on the mend, my spirit becoming whole again. This is my dreams again, a fire burning deep within. I'm spiraling down to a love I found. Though I'm far from the end, there's light up ahead. I believe my heart is on the mend. I'm still holding on to hope, though this hurt still has a hope. Sometimes miracles are slow. This is my heart on the mend, my spirit becoming whole again. And this is my heart on the mend, my spirit becoming whole again. This is my dreams again, a fire burning deep within. I'm spiraling down to a love I found. Though I'm far from the end, there's light up ahead. I believe my heart is on the
All right, thank you again, Gary.
Thank you.
At this time, I'm asking Josh Angle to come forward, and he's going to give us a presentation of our 2025 reevaluation and process. Now, I know a lot of folks are here this evening and want to speak to that. We've got several of you signed up, and that's the reason we moved the public comment period to after Josh's presentation, because we wanted to allow you a time and opportunity to understand how we got to where we are, certainly. And I will say, in most of the social media accounts and things that are running pretty rampant on Facebook and various other things, we've been pretty well chastised, pretty good, and but it's okay, because that's, as they tell me, that's what I get paid the big bucks for, although we don't get paid that much. Contrary to popular belief, some folks have accused us of that too, so a lot of accusations running around. But anyway, we've got our tax administrator here this evening, and we want to give you folks an opportunity to understand how we got to where we are. Certainly it's driven by the economy, and it's driven by housing and the housing market as a whole, and construction cost and everything else. So Josh is going to make that presentation, and hope that it'll answer some questions. So thank you, Mr. Ankle. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the opportunity. Just for my own safety, Sheriff, this is a laser pointer. I promise it's not Crimson Trace. So just wanted to get that out of the way. A little bit about the history of what's going on in the state of North Carolina. You're probably starting to hear about revaluations in a lot of counties. Looking at the past 4 years, 77% of the state has went through revaluations. Looking at 24 counties in 2021, 2022, 10 counties, 2023, 22 counties, 2024, there was 21 counties. What you'll realize tonight, a lot of that is driven by state law and North Carolina general statutes that counties have to follow. And so hoping to provide some clarification on those topics tonight for you. What's going on for Caldwell County in 2025 is also happening now with 28. I'll point to Buncombe County. Unfortunately, due to the devastation they received from Hurricane Helene, they were not able to do their revaluation. And I think there was some special legislation that was being floated about that situation. But I've left them on my slide here. You can see on the color grid that I've provided at the bottom of the screen, the bulk of the state is on a 17 of the 28, or those are doing 4-year cycles. And you'll see that the counties that are not on the 4-year cycles, a lot of those are your smaller counties. And we'll keep going, and feel free to ask me any questions if you guys have some during the presentation. Caldwell County, it's no secret, did a 2025 revaluation. Wilkes County is also doing a 2025 revaluation. Watauga County will be doing a 2027. If you look to the south end of Caldwell County, you'll see that Burke County, Catawba County, and Alexander County all did 2023 revaluations. And from public record, what I was able to find from news media, we saw a 40% increase in the values for Burke County, a 50% increase in Alexander County, and Catawba County was 69%. From there, let's step into Caldwell County and understand a little bit about the tax base. There's 52,568 parcels at the time that this presentation was put together. That number changes due to divisions of property and people combining property and different things. But how often should we revalue those properties? Well, we have 5,474 individual personal property accounts. Well, those are done on an annual revaluation per the statute. Continuing on, there's 1,352 business personal property accounts. Again, you see an annual revaluation of those accounts. Stepping into our registered motor vehicles, you have 109,204. And again, those are done on an annual revaluation. So we're here to answer the question tonight: how often should counties do revaluations for real property? Of those 52,568 parcels, there's 49,547 residential, 2,850 commercial, and 171 industrial. We're going to step into some statutes now. North Carolina General Statute 105-283 talks about true value and explains what we have to do for all of those types of property at the time of revaluation. All property, real and personal, shall as far as practicable be appraised or valued at its true value in money. When used in this subchapter, the words true value shall be interpreted as meaning market value. That is, the price estimated in terms of money at which the property would change hands between a willing and financially able buyer and a willing seller, neither being under any compulsions to buy or to sell, and both having reasonable knowledge of all uses to which the property is adapted and for which it is capable of being used. The definition of market value there is very clearly defined, and it's the same definition that a realtor tries to apply when they're looking to list a house. It's also the same definition that an appraiser, whether it's done for a bank of any sorts, tries to apply and find that true value, market value. Just thought I would highlight the market value there in that statute. In order to keep understanding everything that's going on with the statutes, I need to explain at this point what a sales ratio is. The sales ratio is a file each county is required to upload to the North Carolina Department of Revenue. The file is a sample of all sales per quarter. The file reflects the county's assessment level in relationship to the sale price. As an example, if you've got a property that sells for $200,000 and the county's assessment level is $150,000, that math creates a 75% assessment ratio of the purchase price, showing that we are not reflective of what the property is selling for. So 4-year cycle. In North Carolina General Statute 105-286, counties are required to reappraise all real property, land, and other structural improvements at least once every 8 years. But in that same statute, if we keep reading, it also authorizes or possibly requires counties to reappraise real property more frequently than every 8 years. Any county that falls outside of a 10% window, meaning 0.90 on their reappraisal year, Caldwell County's last reappraisal was 2021, or 4th year, 2025, and 7th, 2028, year after their reappraisal year, will have their public service company values equalized using a weighted ratio. To explain what that is, each county has services like Blue Ridge Energy, Duke, and the state assesses all of that. The grid is not going to work if Caldwell is doing one thing and it doesn't connect to Catawba and Burke. So that's done on a state level, and those funds come into the county. And so to equalize those numbers would to equalize those to our level of assessment. But if you keep reading in that statute, if your county has a population greater than 75,000, and Caldwell County does, and the sales ratio is greater than 1.15, or less than 0.85, the county must reappraise on the third year after being notified by the North Carolina Department of Revenue. So that is what the statutes say, and that's why you see a lot of counties having to do 4-year revaluations due to our market. And I'm getting into some of that here in just a moment. Important dates for 2024 that I'd like for you to see. At the September 9th Commissioners meeting, we presented the schedule of values to the commissioners. That was all done in accordance with North Carolina General Statute 105-317. From there, the clerk to the board was authorized to schedule the public hearing for October 14th. In that same statute, 105-317, it requires the clerk, and I'm having a hard time reading, I apologize, shall publish a statement in a newspaper having general circulation in the county. And so that's what happened, and then we get to October 14th, and we held the public hearing for the schedule of values. From there, the commissioners adopt the schedule of values at the November 12th commissioners meeting. And again, that's all per North Carolina General Statute 105-317. Important dates coming into 2025. January 1st is the effective date for reappraising all real property at 100% of market value. January 31st, send revaluation notices to all property owners and start the appeals process. April 2025, the Board of Equalization and Review convenes to hear formal appeals. We've not got to that point yet. We'll cover some language here in just a moment of things that citizens are welcome to do in the meantime, in between the time that the board comes together. The plan is for the board to convene or to adjourn in May 2025, looking for the middle part of May. That's actually an extension of the statute that counties are required to do. We didn't want to open the window for you to appeal your property and then just close it right back. But the statutes allow counties during a revaluation years to extend that period, and we wanted to do that as well. So a little bit of statistics and sales data coming into this revaluation. This is all sourced from Canopy MLS, multiple listing service. It's where every property that's put on the market goes through by a reputable realtor. In August 2020, when the schedule of values were being presented to the commissioners, the average sale price in Caldwell County was $188,005. Tracking that information in Canopy MLS, now the average sale price has grown to $319,389, excuse me. You also see the same trend happening with the median sale price. Started in August 2020 of $160,000 and growing to $255,000 for August 2024. So that's a little bit about the information that's required the county to do a more frequent reappraisal than the 8 years that the statute does say. But continuing on that, what are methods used for appraising property? You've got the market approach. In the fee appraisal world, some call it the sales comparable model. It's the same thing that we do every day. If you can find a product at Walmart compared to finding a very similar product at Dollar General, we're going to look at the quality of the product and look at the price of the product and choose what we want. That's the same thing that goes on with some of our housing market. Stepping into the income approach, those properties are usually based off of the income generated, meaning rental type properties or commercial type properties that are leased out. The least preferred method for real property is the cost approach, which is taking the construction costs less the depreciation to derive the value. Most of the time, when it comes to real property, the market approach and income approach are able to be done. But how do we apply those approaches? Mass appraisal, the process of valuing a group of properties as of a given date using common data and standardized methods. That's the only feasible way for the county to do revaluations with over 52,000 parcels and 5 appraisers. Stepping into the revaluation notices, I wanted to highlight some things on the letter and make sure you were aware of these things that were on the letter that we sent out to all of our citizens. First thing I'd like to say is this is not a tax bill. We are statutorily required to notify you of a value change. And so that's what the letter is trying to accomplish. Another thing that I would like to point out for any of our citizens that are watching tonight is if you do have Hurricane Helene damage to a structure and it's not repaired as of January 1st, 2025, and you feel like that's not been considered in your assessment, please call our office. I've got a number, 828-757-1429, that I'd encourage you to call so we can make sure that we're aware of that. Continuing on to the back page of the letter, why am I getting this notice? North Carolina state law obligates each county to conduct a reappraisal of all properties within its jurisdiction so that all property is assessed at market value. The last countywide reappraisal conducted in Caldwell was in 2021. This is important because it ensures you a fair and equitable fraction of the tax burden that property owners must share. The same law also requires that you be notified of changes to your assessment. Continuing on in the letter, another section I'd like to highlight for you talks about how can I get my assessment changed. If you can provide information demonstrating that the assessment is substantially higher or less than true market value or is otherwise inequitable with the assessment of very similar properties, we encourage you to request an informal review of the assessment. Other factors cannot be considered in determining the value of your property. Moving on down there, the highlighted area talks about stuff that we just can't consider. It doesn't really affect your value. But moving on from there, if you'd like to request a review of your property, what information can I provide? Recent appraisals in their entirety, recent construction cost invoices from a contractor, recent comparable sales summary, closing statements from recent property purchase, recent listing agreements with asking prices, and even photos showing extraordinary depreciation or physical damage to a property that might not be observable from the curb will all be used in reaching a more accurate assessment of your property value. I dealt with something today, I'll point to you, that somebody had some drywall damage due to damage on their house. Roofing had to be replaced and stuff like that. We weren't aware of the situation. The problem with the way Hurricane Helene hit our county is you're apt to have a house down in Grace Chapel that's affected just as easy as you are in Wilson's Creek. So it's very difficult for us to identify all those without the public's assistance. And so that's my presentation for you, and I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have of me.
All right.
So Josh, talking about the general statute where you need to fall within this range of 0.85 to 1.15, and if you fall out of that range, that triggers that 4-year revalve. What was our number as a county?
Well, our number right now coming into 2024, I don't have the number that was in past, but coming in 52% of assessment value.
So we were 52%, and the bottom number was 0.85.
That's as low as we could go without.
But ours was 0.52. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, another question. What if we just decided we weren't going to do an evaluation and just kick the can down for 8 years? What would happen?
Well, for one, your public service company fund that you receive from the state would be equalized. And two, I am not an attorney, but not following state law, I'm sure it's got consequences as well. Since we receive state funds, it's probably not in a situation where they would have to bill the county. They would probably just short us the amount to come in and do our revaluation themselves.
One more question and I'll hush. Why were we able to do 8-year evaluations years ago? In fact, I got 2008-ish where we had an 8-year evaluation. Why was that?
So history of Caldwell County, there was a 1997 reval, a 2001, 2005. There was a 2009 that was slated, but the sales at that time were very strong, but we knew the local economy would not be with some of the jobs we were losing at that time. And the board at that time chose to extend the revaluation because, again, the market growth wasn't enough to trigger. So they were able to do the 2009, scheduled it for 2011, and ended up doing it in 2013. If you think about those times, you didn't see the market growth that we've experienced over the past 4 years. And that trend continued while the market was recovering from 2013 to 2021. It's actually not ideal when a county with a population greater than 75,000, it's not an ideal economy if you're doing 8-year revaluations.
Explain a little bit about the curb evaluation. In other words, you or your staff have driven by every property in Caldwell County and looked at it from where you can.
As many as possible. There's a lot of gates in Caldwell County.
A lot of gates.
That's required some aerial photography. I would say we're probably a good 60% of seeing all of our residences. A lot of your larger land tracts, you can get better data from your desk when you can look at topography maps and things like that, and not have to get out there trespass and, get shot.
Right. You said the key word there, get shot.
That's it.
Because I've had a lot of comments about that, well, they haven't been to my house. Well, we tried, and we did go by the curb and/or the aerial photography that we're using on GIS mapping, which is a big benefit of being able to look down from above and seeing what's the property there.
Yes, sir.
Josh, go ahead.
Do you use drones and stuff to do any of this with?
No, sir. That'd be target practice in Caldwell County.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
No, sir. We do not.
Along Chairman Church's question, I've got numerous questions about, a lot of counties use a third party outside source to do their reevaluation. To explain how we did ours, we don't use a third party, correct?
The only part of our revaluation that does include a third party, and it's due to staffing, is the commercial properties and industrial properties in the county. We did receive experience. We did receive some help from Pioneer Appraisals. They're a commercial firm that handles commercial property. But all the residences in Caldwell County were established with a value of locals, people that live here. I can't say all of my staff lives in Caldwell County, but neighboring counties or some sorts, the majority do.
And I think if I remember correctly, in the early part of the presentation, we saw the neighboring counties' percentages of increase. What was ours?
Right now, we're sitting roughly at around a 55 to 60%, but we will not know that true number until we finish appeals.
Right.
So it's very difficult to try to project what that number would be, especially when we're trying to establish a budget for the county to operate.
Right. How many appeals have we had thus far?
We're sitting a little over 450 today. So out of 52,000 parcels.
That's good.
How much would it have cost us if we didn't do the revaluation ourselves in-house? And there's a lot of counties that go outside to bring people in that are not even from this county. What kind of price tag would have cost us to bring that, to get that job done?
A lot of that depends on how good you want your data to be. The thing about Caldwell County is we're operating with 5 appraisers for 52,000 parcels. If somebody comes in and does a full list and measure, meaning they go around every property and measure, you're millions of dollars. If they come in and just do aerial flight and don't do visits, you're still in the millions of dollars. I just like the fact, as a resident of this county, that it was locals that looked at my house. I don't get to set my own value. So they looked at my house as well, and I just appreciate the fact that somebody understands the local economy looking at my house.
Yeah, and you make another point there, but I want to ask, you did revalue my home, didn't you?
Just a little bit.
There's a general consensus among some folks that the commissioners don't get revalued like everybody else does.
No, sir. No, sir. Your house was reevaluated just like the rest of the citizens of Caldwell
with
County.
about a 60% increase, I might add, so.
Yeah,
I got you beat at 64.
62.
63.
And my father's house went up 72%.
So we're not immune either, as some people have accused us of.
Yes, sir.
All right. Anybody else got a question that he can answer? And
Now, I mean, this is going to come up. When we do budget, I assume that we're all on the same pages. We're going to drop the tax rate to as low as we can to go as close to revenue neutral as possible. This is going to come up, and people's wanting to know. But once we drop the tax rate, this is not going to be 60. I mean, your property is still going to be worth more, but you're not going to be paying as much as this sounds like.
Yeah, so Jeff's point, explain the tax rate, because a lot of people don't understand. Some people don't even know that we have a tax rate and how it correlates to the value. So can you explain that a little bit?
I will take care of the value portion. I will recommend Mr. Tony Hilton to handle the tax rate.
Not
but
the
value,
not the actual what the actual tax rate will be, but how the tax rate applies to the value, how you do the calculation.
Well, the value is just one factor in order to produce a bill.
Right.
The tax rate is set by your elected officials, whether it be your commissioners, or if you fall in a town, towns have their rates. You also have fire districts and different things like that. And so once those values are set, the tax rates will be applied at that point by the elected officials. And so that's a little bit about it. The value is just one portion of
Correct.
how we get to that number. But to speak any more on tax rates, again, I would defer to our chief financial officer.
Yeah, so
And I know we're catching you off guard a little bit, Tony, but
all
highlight
right.
the
I would have dressed up
funding
if I'd have known I was
streams.
going to speak.
sleep.
Yeah, the funding streams that we have as well with the
Right.
state monies that come in
Right.
that could potentially be impacted if we kick this can down the road just arbitrarily.
Well, I think the one question you had was how do you calculate your tax bill? It's the tax rate is applied to each $100 of tax value. So you take your value and divide it by 100 and multiply it by the tax rate. So an example of that would be is if your house was appraised at $100,000, divide that by 100, which would be $1,000, and then you multiply that by 0.63, which is the current tax rate. So it would be $630 a year on a $100,000 house, if you can find a $100,000 house. I think what to keep in mind for everybody is that even though your value has probably gone up significantly, the tax rate will come down. We can't tell you how much yet, but significantly. So when you're multiplying, it won't be by 0.63, it'll be by some much smaller number. Like I said, I don't know how much yet, but.
And when was the last time we had a change in our tax rate, Tony? Do you remember? 2016, I'm thinking.
Yeah, somewhere in that range.
July of 2016.
It's going on 8-10 years ago.
Yep.
And that one, just a little history on that. In 2013, we had a reval, and we went actually a little bit below revenue neutral, and it didn't hold. We went a couple years, and we started going into the red. And so the tax rate had to come back up. We'd come out of the reval in 2013, we came out at 60 cents. We had to go up to 63, and that was in, like you say, 2016, 2015, somewhere in there. And we've stayed with that same number ever since, so we've not had to raise it for a pretty good while. But I would go ahead, I mean, I work on the budget as much as anybody, so I'll just go ahead and say we will lower the rate. I think, there's nobody talking about staying at the same rate. It's going to go down. I can't tell you yet how much.
We won't know that till June when we do the budget.
And I would guess at least 10 cents, but I mean, that's just a guess at this point, but yeah.
Tony, now, since 2016, we've balanced the budget every year, correct?
Yes, sir.
I don't know about every year, but every year we've maybe put 50,000, 100,000 in fund balance for our rainy day fund, correct?
Right.
And we've given money to the schools and community colleges and the sheriff's office and those things that were needed, correct?
Correct.
And so, but yet we've not moved that tax rate in all those years.
Right. Like I said, it went up that 2015. I don't know the exact year, but somewhere in that range. Has not changed since then.
So essentially what we've lived on in order to sustain those new ambulances and patrol cars, the salaries for our employees,
Right.
the school funding and all those, off of our sales tax and vehicle tax and those other revenues that have helped us fuel the expansion, not the ad valorem tax.
The only caveat to that is there is growth in property tax. Even
Yeah.
at the same rate, there'll be growth each year as new properties are added, new buildings, new homes, that sort of thing. So each year we've had the benefit of some growth, even with the rate staying flat.
Right.
And of course, we did the reval in 21, and we got a bump out of that, even though we stayed at the same rate. And I think we got, was it 13, a little over 13% that year. But this one is much higher than that, so I feel sure the rate will come down. I want it to come down just like everybody else. I mean, my house went up 76%, so I don't want my bill to go up 76%.
Right. And I think the message from us to you folks and those that are watching is we're very conscious of that. And we have no intention of banking a lot of money or doing anything crazy, if you will. So we do have to take care of our employees. We do have to pay our health insurance with them. And we have to maintain a certain level of staff. But just like inflation has affected everything else in our nation, it's affected us as well. Products cost us more now. Our EMS folks may be here, but they can attest to the fact that those Lucas devices or stretchers and everything else have gone up. I think right now on the fire apparatus within our county, they've seen a major increase in the purchase of a fire truck. It's something that used to be 350,000 is now 700,000 in just a matter of a few years. So we've got all those things to purchase and keep up with as well. So our costs have inflated, and we're certainly trying to do everything we can. We are asking our employees to make things go further with our vehicles and all of the things that we got there. So we're trying and intend to try very hard coming up in this budget. So I want to put folks' minds at ease about that. So if you want to keep up with us, then we're going to meet every month between now and June when we probably adopt that tax rate in our budget. That'll go into effect July 1. That's when our new budget will go into effect.
I'd like to just say one more thing, just for the benefit of people here, people watching at home. If you own property in Caldwell County, you really pay two property taxes. You'll pay the county tax, but you'll either pay a municipal tax, which I pay. I live in the city of Lenore, so I pay their taxes. If you don't live in a municipality, you'll pay a fire tax. You're in a district, depending on where you live. Could be several different ones. But we're hopeful that those towns and fire departments will do what we're trying to do and keep that rate as low as possible. And I would encourage you to, look at that as well. It's not just the county that charges you property taxes. I'm hoping the city of Lenore is going to lower their rate. And I'm sure everybody hopes whoever's taxing them will lower it, as well. So just want you to be aware of that too.
Right. And just, again, I think I asked you as you were coming up, but our ad valorem taxes funds about what percentage of our overall budget?
A little less than half, 47, 48%.
Right.
We get sales tax, we get vehicle tax, which I guess is ad valorem, but it's a separate pot. There's a lot of money generated in various departments. DSS and Health Department get a lot of state and federal money to help pay for their operations.
Right.
The ambulance service charges a fee for ambulance trips, so there's money comes in there. And there's other smaller amounts that come in here and there. The money we have, we invest. We earn some interest on it. Now we do. A few years ago we didn't, but just because there was no interest.
Yeah.
But right now we are. But yeah, it's a little less than half.
Tony, would you say that our debt as a county high or low?
We're very low compared to our peers. Our debt load is much lower than most of the other counties around us.
So we're not going out there and getting loans that we can't pay for and?
No.
No. And you've done a great job by, several years ago, I know you went and refinanced a lot of the loans that we did have.
Right.
And got rates as low as, what's your lowest rate, would you say?
1.7.
And that's awesome. Saving the taxpayers' money
right.
off of a community college building or a school building that we built. You were able to go and get that tax, and you're always doing that. You can't do it right now because the rates are really high. And that's why we're really not doing anything, because there's no sense in doing that.
Right.
Mr. Chair, I wrote down a couple of things that I don't even know if people realize what our county budget goes for. Public schools, about $14.5 million. Community college, the sheriff's office, EMS, communications, animal services, DSS, Health Department, planning and inspections, maintenance, clerk of court, register of deeds, IT, the tax department. none of these things provide, we don't make anything. They're all a service. And I may have missed a
Public
half
library.
But library,
Libraries,
perfect.
Yep.
Yeah, I may have missed several that are very, are service-oriented and mean a lot to our citizens. And so it's a pretty big task. And all these folks, we really haven't added much to any of these budgets over the years. Here and there, yes, but nothing out of the realm, so.
Like another important thing we fund is all our allied agency partners. A lot
Like
of
Meals on
nonprofits.
Wheels, I think we give some money to Kings Creek for
There's
the
parks,
children's baseball programs,
ball.
Gamewell,
Communities and
South,
schools.
communities and schools.
Helping Hands.
North
Clinic,
Helping
Catawba,
Hands, North
North
Catawba.
Catawba Optimist help pay for their
Caldwell
basketball
opportunities.
and children's t-ball and baseball. I mean, not a lot, it's $5,000-$10,000,
It
but I
adds up
mean,
for all of them, though. It's
but it adds up, that's
Right.
right, yeah.
right. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's done with that money that's very important to the community. We may not give a large amount of money to some of these nonprofits, but they depend on it, and they impact a lot of people's lives for the better. So,
And our budget's out there for everyone to see,
yes, sir.
and they can come to you and look at line by line, and
Right.
we're open to any and all ideas of that.
Yeah, I think to Chairman Church's point earlier, when I came on to, excuse me, I've got a cold. When I came on the board in 2016 in December, an ambulance at that time, we was running around roughly $250,000. That same ambulance today is about $450,000. And I think to me, it's a vital part of what we are charged to do is to protect the safety and welfare of our citizens in this county. But Chairman Church made a good point that we've been affected by the inflation as well. And I can tell you, any of the firemen in the room or on watching from TV, it's been amazing to see what's happened to the fire service and the expenses of just the turnout gear is just massive. Fire trucks, all the equipment that's taking place there. So I know we got a couple in the room, and to see that the cost of the little volunteer fire department has exploded over the last several years.
Patrol vehicles are the same way.
Patrol vehicles, same way. Used to, you could buy one for $15,000, $18,000 new, and now they're costing you $30,000 new.
Time we get them equipped and everything we need for them to be functional, we're close to $70,000 a unit.
Yeah,
70,000.
75, yeah. Yeah.
That's not just, you buy the vehicle for less than that. By the time
Right.
you get the radio and everything else.
Totally equipped, yeah.
Right.
And we want to make sure our sheriff's department has good equipment, making sure that when you dial 911, somebody's breaking in your house, that they get to you. And our salaries over the years has been a big part of our increase in our budget is the salaries that we've paying our employees, so.
That's an important point. And people don't think about government the same way they do a private business, but in a lot of ways, there's some similarities. We compete for employees with Catawba County, Alexander County, Wilkes County, Burke County, all the towns. There's other people and other governments that need the same employees we do. And if we don't keep up with them, then all our best people will leave and go work in one of these other areas. And it leaves us with, not the best quality, so.
And or not able to fill.
Or not even filled at all,
Which
right?
is what happened about 4 years ago in environmental services, environmental
Right.
health with septic inspections and trying to get people's homes to come out of the ground, be able to build them. We couldn't get out there and check the septic tank for a year to give you an idea where you could put your septic tank, so.
Yeah.
And all those things have impacted us immensely.
That's been the biggest increase in our budget the last 3 or 4 years is salaries, trying to help bring our staff up to a comparable level with our competitors. I like to credit Mr. Duncan. He's done a great amount of work in that area, and it's something that we've strived really hard for. And I think it has helped a lot. I think our turnover at EMS is greatly diminished from where it was. I know we had a problem with the detention center, and that's been cured for the most part. So, you hate to spend money for anything, but sometimes you have to.
Yeah. And you highlight the detention center, the sheriff's here, you average about 185 to 187 inmates every day. It's got to be fed 3 meals a day. And unfortunately, we pay for that as taxpayers, but we have to do it, and we got to keep the detention officers out there in place to keep them in. So
Jails are very expensive to operate.
it's
Yeah,
very
they are.
expensive.
Pay for the medical too.
Yeah,
I have
pay
to
for
say,
the
our
med-
sheriff's putting them in there right now.
Well,
though.
he's filling them up.
He's filling the drug, he's
Yeah.
killing the drug
He is.
dealers around here, and I'm proud of him for that.
Absolutely. Josh, I got one last question for you. You referenced the general statute, North Carolina general statute several times being state law, right? And I think Mike asked a question about what happens if we violate that law. I know as a society in general, when we violate the law, there's a consequences, depending on what that law may be. We're bound by state law, just like the sheriff is. He's bound by state law. If he witnesses a violation of state law, he is supposed to address it. And with that addressing it comes consequences. So to Mike's point, expand just a touch, just a little bit on that general statute in requiring that it requires us to do it. We don't have a choice in the matter.
Right, and I mean, I'm a rule follower, but I also took an oath of office as well. And so my character would be above violating state law. And I do not know of a tax administrator that has chose to do that. So I can't speak to the penalty, but it's like Mr. Helton was speaking, we receive a lot of funds in Caldwell County from the state level to try to operate and provide services like DSS and HELP. I would make a strong assumption that the state wouldn't even have to charge the county. They could they've got
There's
the money already.
consequences. So my point is there's consequences.
Yes, sir, and I don't want to find
We
out
don't
what
want to
they
know
are.
what that is, right? And we're bound by our oath to follow state law and the general statutes in North Carolina sets aside for counties and county commissioners, so.
Well, and we have to maintain a fund balance.
Correct.
That's a part of that. And then if we did want to borrow money, it affects that if we're not following that to the letter as
Correct.
well. So there's a whole caveat of things that we might think we're in charge, but we're not really in charge.
That's right.
And we often have a joke among us that folks from the state show up and say, I'm from the state and I'm here to help, but most of the time they're here to charge you more money.
Yeah.
And so that's where we are with that.
There's this thing called unfunded mandates, where they mandate you do something but don't push any funds to do it with.
Now, I'll give you a prime example. Our courthouse, currently, they fund us to the tune of about $88,000 a year for the courthouse and all the facilities at the Caldwell County Courthouse. And it doesn't even pay the power bill.
That's correct.
It don't. So, but we got to have it, and we're told we have to have it. So it's just a lot. And then the school systems as well. We got a lot of money that flows through us, goes to the Caldwell County school system.
SRO officers.
SRO officers, we, a few years ago, went into our budget and then put an SRO officer at every school in Caldwell County has an SRO at it. Our high schools have 2 at each one of those, so.
And we pay for those.
We're very proud of that fact, but we
Yep.
thought school safety and school security was a top priority, and that's where we put that. So, anybody else? We could talk about it all night.
Yeah.
And I hope some people watch this later and can go back and review. So, but we appreciate you, Josh, and
Good job.
appreciate your staff. And let the reviews begin with the Board of Equalization and review, all right?
Yes, sir. Thank you for your time. Y'all have a
Thank
good
you.
day.
So what that's going to do now, we're going to come to our portion of the public comment section. We wanted to save that this evening and give you an opportunity to hear some of the presentation. Maybe it would help answer some questions. But my understanding, I think we got 2 different groups here this evening. Some speaking to the property value, and some are here for our noise ordinance, is my understanding. So I want to get the noise ordinance folks up here. I think I've got 3 of those signed up. for public comment. But Dick Story, if you will come, Mr. Story lives at 2455 Thornfield Drive here in Lenoir. As usual and customary, we like to keep your comments to 3 minutes, if you would, so we can move along as fast as we can. So we're certainly open to hearing everything you have to say, Mr. Story.
Good evening. My name is Dick Story, and my wife was coming, but she's got the flu, so she's not here. Thank you for allowing us to speak about our ongoing problem with the shooting of long guns and pistols for as long as 6 hours at a time on Sundays. My wife and I have lived in Thornfield for 25 years and never had a single problem. Dean Wilkie's property, which was approximately 70 acres, joins our property on the back side. Dean, who has been a big game hunter for decades, had set up several shooting ranges on his property to sight his guns prior to a hunt. He sold 30 acres of his property to Jennifer Gates. Jennifer Gates' son, Brock Gates, and his friends have since used the shooting range almost always on Sunday to shoot guns with no consideration for the residents of Thornfield subdivision, which I live in. They feel like it's okay to fire hundreds and hundreds of bullets for hours on end. Due to the extreme volume and longevity of shooting, Angie and I and our neighbors are unable to sit outside our decks, carry on a conversation, sit by my pool, have a cookout, or any other outside activity. When we go inside our homes to try to get away from it, we can still hear the shooting as it also rattles the windows. We have talked to certain individuals who live in Thornfield who are friends with Jennifer and Brock Gates to try and reason with the persons doing the shooting. Unfortunately, Brock and whoever he allows to use the range could care less that what they're doing is an extreme noise nuisance for residents in the Thornfield community. I've spoken to Chief Deputy, the Sheriff Department, Jonathan Kirby, numerous times about this situation, and his department has issued at least 2 citations which were dismissed by the DA due to how the existing statute is written. I've been around guns my whole life. I'm a veteran. I'm a big supporter of the Second Amendment. This is not about guns. What it's about is the lack of respect for the people of Thornfield. We all want the statute to be amended to force a change in this selfish behavior. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Story.
Mr. Story.
Next, we have Dean Wilkie, 3220. And I don't know what that says, Mr. Wilkie. You can tell us what old state place?
Old steel place.
Old steel place, all right.
There's a blacksmith shop out there.
Yes, sir.
You go back that far? Gentlemen, my name is Dean Wilkie. I'm a past CEO and president of Wilkie Construction Company. 45 years ago, I bought this piece of property. I bought it for peace and tranquility, and I've enjoyed it for that. I've enjoyed my neighbors. Unfortunately, over the last 2 years, there is no more peace and tranquility. You cannot, on certain weekends, you cannot even hear the noise because you got to cover your ears if you do that way. But if you keep your ears open inside or outside the house, it becomes unbearable. My wife would like to do what she wanted to do, but I wouldn't be standing here. And there used to be a noise ordinance or a nuisance ordinance that somebody can shoot and do so in a practical way and not endanger or make it unbearable for the rest of the people. As you probably know, somebody that on the board knows me. I've hunted all my life. I've been a lot of places around the world hunting, but I don't shoot that much anymore. When I shoot on that range, I probably shoot 100 rounds. If you know what breaking in a gun is, that's one shot, swab, cool, and go. It takes 3.5 hours to shoot a box of shells. Then you got your gun where you want to. You can go back and shoot whatever you want to. So I don't think there's any consideration for us. It's a matter of I go out there and do it, They can't stop me. I'm going to die one of these days. That's not the point. The point is the people that are around it, the people that would buy the property, they want to enjoy the peace and tranquility. We've had all kinds of wildlife out in my place over the years. Had a black bear stick his nose up on my window, look in. So there's things that you don't get to see out in other places. But I've been very enjoyable time in doing it. So please consider a noise ordinance and a nuisance ordinance that we can live with and perhaps they can live with. But you got to limit the number of hours, number of shells, number of people, something that's practical. Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkie.
And next, Brock Gates, 3190 Ald Farm Drive. So welcome, Mr. Gates.
Good evening, gentlemen. Just a couple points I'd like to make about this conversation that's been brought up. Yes, I am the owner of the range that he is referring to, and I just want to classify that as a agricultural property. It is farmland, and it was sold as farmland. But I do want to make one point very clear. Whenever this actually was sold to us in our family, it was actually marketed as a gun range. And so that was part of the enticement as buyers of the property. Okay. Furthermore, I think there's a couple points that we need to point out. I think he just admitted on public record that he's been trespassing on the property and shooting and discharging firearms as well. So for him to sit here and point fingers at myself and individuals that we enjoy our Second Amendment right with is very unfair to us in this very situation. What he deems is a nuisance ordinance, guys were in the county. That's also an unfair point. And in fact, I'd probably go further to say that it's been a waste of resources of the Sheriff's Department, who have plenty of responsibilities and things to do on a daily basis, rather than be tied up with something as silly as what we're having to deal with. I've tried to reach a resolution with these individuals, and frankly, I smelled betrayal in the air because these guys, former my friends, actually had convinced me to take the step into starting a firearms business. Okay, so there's a lot more that could be said, and I mean I could continue with multiple points. I have character witnesses. I mean, guys, we enjoy going out there. We use suppressor technology that mitigates the sound signature. And I mean, that is something that's not an easy investment to make. In a lot of cases, it's just an enjoyable pastime. I'm members of the Gun Owners of America. They have a strong legal team, and those guys are truly in support of what we do in the county that we should be allowed to do things in. I guess another point, I believe the county is a sanctuary city for gun ownership. Is that correct? I'm pretty sure I saw an article in 2020 that listed this county as a sanctuary city. And I would hope that we can continue to honor those rights because it is not as ridiculous as these guys are saying that it is. And in fact, if they're saying they can't go out on their porch and enjoy their times out there, I would like to ask the question, the frequency that they think that we've been out there, because if anything, I think we went the better of a half of a year last year, not even shooting for almost months at a time. So if they want to call this a nuisance, I'd like to know what they think a nuisance is. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Do we have anybody else that's wanting to speak to the noise ordinance? You do?
Yeah, I'm not signed up. I didn't know how to do that. I would like to speak.
Come on.
All right, come on up. Give us your name and address, please.
Sorry, I wasn't planning on speaking. I just come straight after work when I found out about this. But I'm Brent Esther. I don't think I've had the pleasure of meeting any of you guys before. I live at 2219 Flanagan Drive, Lenore, about a mile down the road. So, like I said, I wasn't planning on speaking, but in good conscience, after listening to this, Brock Gates is a good friend of mine, and I know many of you may not know him, but he has a lot of character, and he does a lot for this community. I mean, gets up at 5 a.m., cooks a ruatan, fundraisers, he owns a nursing home, charity events all the time. The little bit of spare time he has, we do go out there and shoot, typically on a Sunday. Sometimes we'll shoot twice in a month. Sometimes we'll go 3 months without shooting. Like Brock said, we use suppressors. But listen to Dean and the other gentlemen speak. We have plenty of issues with his wife. I have videos that I could give to the board after the meeting of borderline harassment at this point. Last year, we had officers come out 25 times on separate events. You may be aware of the sheriff. It come to Sheriff Jones's desk many times. Nothing could be ticketed. There was no law breaking. To be frank, half the officers, I won't name any names, but we have officers, state troopers in North Carolina, active duty, Hudson PD, Lenore PD, Caldwell County Sheriff's Department that also shoots out here with us. So there is no laws being broke. Every time they come out, they realize what we're doing. We're in a safe manner. We have barricades. I personally hauled over 2,000 tires out to the range as backstop using Armor 500 steel plates. We're on 45 acres where we're shooting on the back. It was an existing range, but the law is the law. There is no frequency just because of these people, and Dean Wilkie has buyer's remorse when he sold his property and thought that Brock and his family would never use it. That doesn't constitute that this is unlawful. I mean, there's so many instances where we've had problems out of them, and we're trying to get along with people. We're not trying to call the cops every day, report this, blocking in our vehicles, cussing us out from heaven to hell over and over and over with kids in the car, families. We take our families out there to teach them the Second Amendment rights and have a fun, safe shooting. This is not like something we're just going out there and blasting a war zone like they act like it to be. This is common sense, how we see it. There's no the 7 p.m. or 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. We're not ever shooting in those time frames. I mean, how many people, be honest, out here in the crowd that they own guns? I mean, let's be real, honestly. And if you had 45 acres, including people on the board, would you not shoot if you had a private, safe place to shoot it? I mean, if I build a house and across the street someone builds a gas station or a ballpark or whatever and there's noise all the time, it doesn't make what they're doing illegal. I either deal with it or I sell my house and pick up and leave. That is a agriculture deemed farmland that is out of the city and in the county, and there's no laws being broken out there. And to change this law just because a couple people who may know people and higher ups or have money or they want to support this and that does not change the legality of what's going on there. And for them to harp on Brock Gates, I could not go home tonight and not say something. It's just crazy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yeah, I got a lady coming, and then I'll get you right behind her. How's that?
My name is Angie Woods. I live at 2447 Thornfield Drive. I was not going to speak. I did try to speak with Brock about this situation. I was told some things that I will not repeat. I have nothing against you shooting whatsoever. It's the Sundays for 5 and 6 straight consecutive hours. I agree that's your land and you should be able to do stuff, but it is a huge nuisance to people on Sunday afternoons trying to cook out with their families, trying to have a birthday party, trying to have kids and grandkids over to swim at the pool. It's a huge nuisance for that long and that intense of continuous shooting. Now, I will give you this. You have let up the past couple of months.
More than that.
Yes, and I know that. I have, and Lord, how we appreciate that. We do, tremendously. I did not even have my mother's birthday party in May at my home because of the shooting. And it's not 1 or 2 hours. It's a continuous 4 or 5 people, high-powered rifles continuously going. You go inside, your windows are shattering. They're shaking. We have videos of that. You told me that night. This is the shooting.
It's one of the rest.
Continuous.
Sunday afternoon.
Sunday afternoons.
This is what we hear for 3, 4, 5, 6 hours. Every Sunday. All the neighbors have to go in. The dogs go in. No cookouts.
Twice in the 20 years that we've lived
All
there.
right. We're going to have some decorum here. Listen, everybody.
I'm sorry, I was speaking. He has twice in the 20 years that we've lived there.
Ma'am, address us, please.
Sir, he has twice in the 20 years that we have lived there because it's inconsiderate. It's inconsiderate to the people who live there and their families.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm sorry that it's come to this. But it's not right and it's not fair. You talk about the Constitution. Well, your constitutional rights, when they impede on someone else's rights, then yours no longer exist. I mean, it's not right. You need peace and tranquility, not ours. That's not what. I understand that he wants to do this. I get that. But really, Sundays, 4, 5, 6 hours with multiple people out there, 200 yards from our homes, high-powered rifles, with grandkids and kids wanting to go out to the pool, nieces, nephews, students of mine. No, it's not right. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I think there was another gentleman stood up.
Yes, sir.
And please just address the commissioners, please.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
All right.
I'm Stuart Tucker, and I live in the same neighborhood. I'm not adjacent to the range, but I am across the street diagonally. I've been down there with these guys shooting, and they're very, very respectful. They focus on safety, and it's a good training session, and I've learned a lot from these guys. Did want to point out that there's other people that do shoot in this neighborhood, especially on the backside and especially recently. So if you ban one guy, then you're just going to hear it from another person. I'd say 100 yards away, and I can hear it outside when I'm outside, but I hear other people shooting as well. But I think, I do it as recreation. These guys do it for competition training, so it's not just, guys out there shooting. So they are training. So, but thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
All right. I'm hesitant to ask, but is there anybody else on this issue? Thank you, each one, for coming and voicing your opinion. And then now we're going to move into the public comment section for the property revaluation. And I have Tyler Sanders first, who wanted to speak. So, Mr. Sanders, give us your address and.
Yeah, will do. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the board, my name is Tyler Sanders. I live in the Oak Hill community off Cedar Valley Church Road here in Caldwell County. I would like to say that number one, I'm proud to live in Caldwell County, the best county there is, as far as I can tell. Just by a quick show of hands, how many people are here about the tax? Okay, thank you. This isn't a complaint session at all, because like you say, everybody's has went up, y'all's included. Mine has too, to the tune of 90%. What I've tried to do here is just put up two things. I spoke to Mr. Potter, as a matter of fact, by phone the day that this had come out, and I appreciate that. I do appreciate the information. But like I told Mr. Potter, I do believe that the county sort of dropped the ball on this one, particularly whenever you had from 2020, the valuation had went up for the 2021 valuation. Whenever there was a reappraisal then, it was just an 18% increase. You're looking at certain people's houses, mine included, 90% increase. I think what could have probably been done a little bit better on this would have been that in that same slip of paper that said this is not a tax bill, there could have been another paper put in there similar to like how you get your the thing you put on your windshield whenever you go to the landfill. Could have been something there that said, we are totally aware that this looks like complete sticker shock to everybody that's opening up theirs and seeing that, oh my God, my valuation has went up $180,000. How am I going to pay that? Because everybody knows, obviously, with the last valuation, property tax stayed the same. So why would it not stay the same for this? I mean, everybody thinks that government is out to get them. They do. I'm in a government position myself. However, I think that could have been played a little bit better. I think that's the reason why y'all got so many people here concerned about it. People concerned, in social media, they're concerned about that. I did just a few calculations real quick, and based off of, taking the 63 cent down to like a 35 cent, that's just on mine, okay? That would end up increasing my tax bill $63 more a year, which is about $5 more a month. That's just on the county tax. That's not included the Little River or the rescue fund. If it goes to 40 cent on the $100 value, it'd be $243 more a year. on 45 cents, $422 more a year. So ultimately, could I pay that? Absolutely. But there are plenty of people, and I look at them out here, older people in this meeting that are concerned about that and offset as much as you can, please. Thank you for your time, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
We understand, and I understand. I live in Oak Hill community.
Yes, sir.
My taxes went up about 76%, about
Yes, sir.
$500,000. And I do understand that, and we have talked about that they probably 80% of the people that could pay this tax if the tax rate stayed the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we are very aware of that. It become a shock to me.
Yeah.
Because it's just one of them things I wasn't expecting.
I understand. And I know my time has run out, but the other thing that, I've run millions of scenarios through my head just from the time that this came out back on the end of January. What would I say? What would I say? And I've heard many people say, well, just vote the county commissioners out. No, I don't believe in that, okay? I believe in this type of public forum. You come and you end up, you voice your opinion, you voice your concern, and then give them a chance to do it. That's the reason why I'm saying. I'm giving you a chance to do it right, okay? And I know many people here are. So that being said, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Tyler, I'll say this, I've always had a lot of respect for you, and I told you on the phone that you've got our commitment, and I can't speak for them, but I know how they think, because I know them pretty well. You've got our commitment that we're going to do the best we can to get it as low as possible. I would agree that we could have done a better job of getting ahead of it a little bit, and maybe, like you said, maybe early January or sometime sent out something that kind of gave you some sort of indication that it was coming, because I think that was part of the things that is the sticker shock and the shock and all of it, right? So if I had to look back and I had to say I would do something different, and I can't speak for the rest of them, but I would have probably done a little better communication, education around it.
I understand.
Even though we had a couple of meetings and we talked about that, we did talk about it throughout the end of the year. But there's a certain percentage of people that it's difficult to get to. It's difficult to touch them. Not everybody's on social media. Not everybody reads a newspaper. Not everybody listens to the radio. So there's a certain percentage of the citizens that's really difficult to get to. And I think that's the challenge as we move forward, is how do we educate the public, and how do we get to that percentage of folks that, the average guy, I've talked to Josh about this, the average Joe, he gets up every day, he eats breakfast, he goes to work, he comes home, he eats supper, he plays with his kid, he goes to bed. Okay, he's the normal person who is not connected to what's going on, right?
Yeah.
So our challenge is going forward, how do we get to that person? So thank you for bringing that up, and I think it is something that I personally think we could have done a better job of.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is David Deal, Birch Circle in Hudson. Welcome, Mr. Deal.
Mr. Deal.
What's that, guys? My wife and I have lived in Hudson for almost 30 years, and we're at that age now that we are retired. When I saw this price increase of my property that doubled, I'm like, there's got to be something wrong with this. So I did a little investigating, and I encourage you to do the same. If you'll look at the demographics of the amount of people that are retired, look at this crowd. The state says you have to make less than $37,700 in order to get your taxes reduced. When was that looked at last? If you work your entire life and you got your savings and your 401ks and you've got all your Social Security benefits, you're making more than that automatically. So that number is erroneous. And I encourage you guys to take the next step. If you're going to be proactive, take the next step and talk to the state legislators and change that number and make it realistic. Thank you for your time.
Yes,
Great
sir.
point, great point, thank you.
Next is Stephanie Alexander.
Good evening.
Welcome, Miss Alexander.
Thank you. I live at 5179 Landing View Drive, the lakeside of Granite Falls, Caldwell County, though. My husband, some friends, and some concerned citizens are wanting to help Caldwell County look more beautiful. I'm mild-mannered compared to what else you've been talking about tonight, okay. So we want to aid in a de-littering program, more so than what you've got even going on now. We want to make it as free to the county as possible, and there's lots of ways to do that. So I've already collected resource information. There's a Hickory citizens group that get together regularly. They've got it down pat. They know where to get free resources for what they do, and they have lots of people that like to help them out. So I'll be out of state during your March meeting, but when I get back by the April, I'll have lots of other resources, state, county. I mean, it just goes on and on. There's just so much that we can get to, and that's all I have to say at the time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Alexander, are you aware of the annual Clean Caldwell event that they do every April? Okay.
Yes, sir.
I would encourage you to get in contact with Mallory Keller. And Mallory, you can call the local number here at the office and get a hold of her. She's the one who spearheads that event every year, and we would love to have you guys involved in that.
All right, you got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and the final one that signed up is Marlise Lessing. I'm sorry.
Fine.
Gentlemen of the board, I'm sure you can commiserate with the fact that taxes are as inevitable as death and waiting at the DMV. And I'm sure everybody else here
That's a good one.
can commiserate with the fact that this was indeed an event for sticker shock. And I would like to bring up the fact that property taxes are terrifying when you think about it. I mean, looking out at the crowd, yes, we are full of retirees and people on a fixed income. And thinking about it, and I do appreciate the education that you've offered, as well as the fact that you are going to be adjusting the mill rate, the fact still remains that when property taxes go up and you're on a fixed income and you can't afford it, you run the risk of losing your home. Even if you decide to sell it, selling your house that you grew up in, that you raised your children in, going off to somewhere else, that's just going to erode the fabric of this community and change people into travelers looking for the cheapest tax rate possible. And I would like to bring up the fact that our current administration has been, and when I say current administration, I mean on the federal and presidential level, they have been discussing the idea of eliminating property tax altogether. Now I do understand that nearly half of the town's revenue come from property taxes, but the fact does remain that it seems to be gaining popularity. Perhaps entertain the fact in the same way that you can entertain the idea of aliens visiting the planet Earth. If there has been anything that the past few months have demonstrated is that systems in place and things that we have thought were inevitable and unchangeable and immutable can in fact be changeable. And perhaps this is something to bring up to the state. Perhaps I should visit Charlotte. It's very nice this time of year. But I would like you to think about the fact that there are some people discussing eliminating property tax altogether and removing that risk of people losing their properties when they can't pay the property tax. It's going up year after year, and even with the mill rate adjustment, it is going to go up for people year after year, and they are going to be seeing more of their paychecks and more of their Social Security and their pensions eaten up until perhaps they can't stay anymore. I don't want that to happen. I'm sure you don't want that to happen. Again, entertain it. Who knows? We might be on Mars in 5 years, and we might not have property tax in 5 years. But that's up to us to determine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, is anybody else here that didn't get signed up that wants to speak? Yes, sir.
Apologize, I'm half crippled. Guys, thanks for hearing me. I know it wasn't scheduled, but
What's your name and address? I'm sorry, I want.
I'm sorry. My name's Philip Shell, 6724 Lakeview Terrace.
All right.
Which is in Lakeview Park, which is at the very end of the county.
Yes, sir.
Sometimes it makes it difficult to get some of those services that we're speaking of, and that's okay. We deal with it in a pretty good way. The thing that I don't think these appraisers have looked at, if you take the number of people that have moved into Caldwell County and you look at it by, okay, did they move in from the state or did they move in from out of state? And you look at the mass exodus all around the world now from certain states that don't comply with the way people believe they should. And we've run into a situation where we have people that can come here from a far western state and pay $800,000 for a house that just sold for $400,000 a couple years ago. And when you pile all that in, it just increases the average. We can't look at this bubble and think it's going to stay there. I mean, everyone here knows the screws are being put on right now, and we're going to get this thing under control. So, once again, I applaud you for your commitment to keep the tax rate as low as you can. You know, it sounds like that's all you can do, but there's been other things that we've disagreed upon that I believe that sometimes you do have to stand up. And if you don't, just like she was saying, very articulate. I'm on disability. I'm crippled, got stage 4 cancer. I'm in my family home. We moved over into Caldwell County back in 1972, I think. I was in the 7th grade. I took care of my parents. I moved back home. I was out in Texas for a long time. I moved back home about 14 years ago to take care of my parents and saw them through. My dad was a World War II vet and died at 97. And I'm still living in that house. But if I have to endure all of this on a fixed income, then it'll go to where it's already going. I've already willed it to the church, but I'll just give it to the church. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Philip.
Anybody else? Yes, sir. Come on up. Give us your name and where you live at, sir.
Yeah. My name's Ray Austin. I live over in the Mount Hermon area of the county. Thank you for your time. Wasn't going to say anything, but I have a question. I'd like to know who is responsible for going out and taking care of all of this evaluation. Nobody ever come to my house and my property and going over my property to see what it's worth. Now, I own property that joins the old landfill field. We all are familiar with that. It's basically worthless. I mean, it's just mountainous type land. There's a couple of houses over there, but my problem is, it's not worth what it is. I'm on a fixed income. I'm 84 years old, on fixed income, and I just don't see my property taxes going up 100%, just doubling. So I just like to know who's responsible for doing this evaluation. They don't go out and actually look and see what the land is worth. If I could get an answer on that, anybody know?
Yeah, well, our staff is responsible for it, Mr. Austin, and be glad to have you contact Josh Angle, the gentleman that made the presentation here, and make your point of what you think your property is worth, and y'all can reach a determination from that. But yes, sir, it's county staff that did do your reevaluation.
Yes, I understand. I've been through that and protested in the times past, and probably will again.
Yes, sir.
But-
Good. I encourage you to.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't mind paying my taxes. That's what the country survives on.
Right.
So I appreciate you guys' time, but anyway, just want to get
for
that
your
in.
service.
Mr. Angle's in the back room back there. I'm
He's
sure
right
he'll
there.
get a hold of you before you leave, okay?
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else? Yes, sir.
I want to thank all of y'all for letting me speak tonight.
Your name and your address?
Sir.
Yeah, my name is Will Rich. I actually live about a mile outside of Lenore on 321 on Creekside Place. My question is more or less, my statement is more of a question than anything. So when the gentleman was up here doing the presentation earlier, he had mentioned that the county had done basically a blanket appraisal because it was the more feasible option. He had mentioned that there is also an income option. So why was the blanket option chosen instead of income?
As soon as he gets writing, we'll bring him up here and we can
He's
ask.
the expert on
Yeah,
that. so.
that's a great question.
So while we're waiting on him, I will tell you my concern. So I was born and raised in Caldwell County. I have lived here virtually my entire life. For the last, well, let me start by saying my family has worked in the furniture industry as long as I was being raised in this county. Basically until we saw the mass exodus back in the 90s, essentially. I was taught at an early age that if I wanted to make decent money and live here, I had to leave the county. It's a sad truth, but our property taxes are going up while the wages are not. We're not bringing in more businesses to increase wages or creating competition for the businesses that are already here. That is my concern as a citizen of this county. And that's kind of leading to my question as well.
All right.
Yeah, Josh, rephrase your question to Josh there.
I was writing back there.
Yeah. So you had mentioned in the presentation that there was essentially a blanket type appraisal for the entire county. Why did we not go with the income method versus the blanket appraisal that we did?
We did. You're talking about the difference between the mass appraisal approach?
Yes.
Which that's applied to all of those types of appraisals. You've got the sales comparable, you've got the income and the cost. Income would be based off of what properties are renting for, and different things like that. Cost would be cost less depreciation to reconstruct the structure. Also, you'd have to add your land value and any improvements there into it. The sales comparable model is typically what's derived for a single-family residential, and that's the preferred method by all appraisal firms, not just taxing.
Okay.
So all three of those methods are weighed, but again, it's done due to mass appraisal.
Right.
5 appraisers covering 52,000 parcels. I've went to school to be a fee appraiser, and I mean, you're 4 to 6 hours for somebody to do a quality job for an independent fee appraisal.
Right.
That's just not conducive to keep taxes cheap in Caldwell County.
Understandable. Well, I hope you understand. I meant no disrespect with my question as much as I really want to know what the difference is because I didn't know.
No, you're fine. It's a pleasure meeting you. I wish it wasn't over taxes, but it's a pleasure meeting you.
That's what you as well.
So Josh, a better answer is, so y'all use all three of those methods
Yes,
to
sir.
some degree?
All three are required.
Yeah.
With the different types of properties that exist in any county,
Okay.
not just Caldwell.
Good question.
But I think to his point, and I just want to make this clarification, it's not about what a person's income is that lives in the home.
Correct. That is correct.
It's about the income a commercial property is generating and/or apartments that they're renting.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it'd be a monumental task to figure out what each person was making that lived in each individual home.
Yes.
So we all
in
know,
Caldwell County.
and that's a good point, we all know that rent has gone up tremendously over the last several years, right? So that's taken into consideration. As that rent factor, as that rent goes up, that number goes up too, correct?
All the different things we're talking about are relative to supply and demand.
Correct.
It's in your rental market, it's in your housing market, if you're looking to purchase, it's in every facet of construction cost. All those things play into factors of what things are selling for.
Okay.
The only time income comes up at the Caldwell County Tax Department is trying to establish you in some of these exclusion programs. We want to try to make those available to citizens, especially, I wish the 37,900 was a higher threshold.
Right.
But of course, that's done on the state level, and it's something Caldwell County tries to make sure our citizens are aware of.
The question was asked earlier about the last time it was changed. Do you have any idea the last time that was raised?
The income is established annually by the state. It changes. It's some formula based off of the calculations of Social Security.
Okay, so it changes every year?
Yes, sir. If you barely miss it this year, please call our office next year because that number does fluctuate.
Okay, that's good to know. That might answer a gentleman's question earlier.
All right. Thank you, Josh. Anybody else?
Someone in the back.
Come on up.
Two there.
Yes, sir, you come on, all in the back.
Well, I don't want to waste y'all's time. Good evening to y'all. And
evening.
my name is Arlen Carnegie.
Yeah.
And I live on 3324 Shealy Road in the Game Warrior. But anyway, first of all, I'd like to say I'm glad I'm not in y'all's shoes. Anyway, here's just something I just wanted to share was I'm still in the building trade. And here's what still stretches me when y'all were talking about inflation. Is I used to say we build around 1,500 square foot houses, and so I used to get selling for around 150,000. But now we have way more than that in the house just to build the house. And so what's happening here, I thought about when we got our evaluations, I thought about people on fixed income also, but at the same time, it's like it's inevitable what's coming because of what it costs to build. And it still stretches me, and my heart goes out, now you're selling that house for like $300,000, and I'm seeing these young people. It's like I'm thinking, how in the world are they doing it? But anyway, it's just what's happening today.
Yeah.
You just can't get around. But anyway, so I just appreciate what y'all do, and we'll keep looking out for the county.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
I heard that houses are going for almost $3 a square foot now.
$300.
$300 a square foot, I meant, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, sir.
That's about what he's 280, 290.
He'll reset it. It's okay. Yes, sir.
Okay, that's fine. I'm not going to take 3 minutes, I promise you. My name's Carl Nichols. I live at 4692 Grace Chapel Road. I wasn't planning on saying anything tonight, but a couple of things came up to me. One thing I want to know is, will the presentation be published so we could go back and review that?
Yes, sir.
I would,
On what the gentleman presented? Okay.
We can put it on the website, yes, sir.
Okay, I'd like to be able to look at that and review it. Another question in regards to Mr. Potter's point on notifications of what all's going on. I realize that it was stated that it was published in the local paper. A show of hands, I'm sure, will probably show that not many people get the paper anymore. And I know there's no guaranteed way of communicating this, but I do know that nobody would be here had they not received this in the good old U.S. Postal Service.
That's right.
So I would consider if these previous decisions and communications would have been published through a regular mail, that we've been better aware of the situation. The other thing I wanted to bring up is
my evaluation went up about a little over 60%, or in the neighborhood of 60%. If, as the county gentleman said, maybe the rate comes down 10% or 10 cents rather, that's only about 20% reduction in the rate versus a 60, 75, whatever everybody's been talking about in the evaluation. So it's not quite a equitable reduction there. I hope you would consider that, making it more equitable. I do know that everything costs a lot more now as far as the county to run. I appreciate y'all's positions and what you do for the county. I know it's not an easy job. I do appreciate what you do, but that's pretty much what I got to say.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, Mr. Nichols.
Anybody else?
Come on up.
Well, at least I know you're not going to hit me with your right arm.
That's right.
I don't know what I might have in here. My name's Lloyd Nichols. Doug is my cousin. I live out in the Granite Falls area, North Carolina. And one thing I learned many years ago, don't just come with a complaint about something, try to come with a solution. And so what I wanted to mention, and I know that Caldwell County is in roughly, the counties are separated. There's about 50% at a retail tax rate of about 2.25%, and the other half of the counties in North Carolina are at 2%. So I know we were talking about fire trucks and ambulances and all that kind of stuff, but it might be a possibility, and especially during this current administration. So if tax rates get lowered and we start talking about doing away with property taxes, we start talking about doing away with taxes on tips and overtime and some of these other things. I'm sure you're aware of that. That is going to stimulate the economy. And I know we're also concerned about tariffs and what they could do. But I also know, you have to remember that those that cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. And 100 years ago, we depended on almost entirely on our tax base coming from tariffs, okay? And that's another thing that has destroyed our economy, because we don't impose the same tariffs on the incoming goods that those foreign governments do to our goods, okay? So if the economy is stimulated and more folks like myself, I'm on fixed income, but not only the fixed income folks, but also those that have more money to spend, if we're encouraged, because we're not paying all these taxes, to go out there and spend more, now your retail tax base is much greater. Okay, so that's a possibility. If we don't raise retail taxes at all, and we stay with the current 2% for Caldwell County, it could still go up. And I know that's pie in the sky. But now if we do raise it just 1/4%, okay, so if you spend $100, okay, basically right now $2 of that's going to go to Caldwell County, right? Inside Caldwell County. If you raise it 0.25, now $2.25 is going to go to Caldwell County. And that alone is going to stimulate, if the economy doesn't change and folks don't change their buying habits, that's going to add about $250,000 to your budget, to the Caldwell County budget.
Yes, sir.
I think it's going to be significantly more than that. So just keep that in mind whenever we start talking about this reduction and how, all these things might factor in to maintaining just what we've got here in Caldwell County. Okay, that's all I've got to say. I appreciate it.
Mr. Nichols, that was a great point. Tony, we tried doing that 4 or 5 years ago on a referendum, because you can't just blanket do that.
Impose it. It has to
But
be voted
a quarter cent, Tony, what would that, back then, estimated what that would have brought in?
It was around $1 million a year.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's more than I estimated.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's more.
See, Catawba County is at that extra 1/4%. But
All the counties around us are at that 1/4%.
Our voters
Yeah.
decided they didn't want
They
that.
didn't
And
want
I get that, because, it needs to be explained and educated of what are you going to do with that 1/4 cent? Are you going to lower our tax rate in order of that? And I agree with you. It's the state of Tennessee, the state of Florida, their sales taxes are higher, but their property taxes are either not there or not at all, or income tax.
Yep.
So I get what you're saying.
They never heard the gun go off in Caldwell County.
It didn't.
It
And so, yeah.
And the interesting thing about that tax is everybody pays that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
The only one who pays property tax is property owners.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that sales tax is, if you want to say the word fair, it's more fair and equitable across the board. Everybody pays it. People coming in and out of the county, passing through, everybody
Exactly.
pays it.
And I know
We
a
agree
lot of
with
our
you.
retail sales are probably just those same people.
Yep.
Those people headed to the mountains from Mecklenburg
That's right.
County and South Carolina and what have you. And so, and, they're frequenting, the furniture stores,
Mm-hmm.
all the restaurants and what have you. So another 0.25%, and like I said, I really, and I know I'm guilty, but I'm a Trumpster, and I'm not ashamed of it. But I think his policies, and if he does do away with some of these taxes, it's really going to stimulate our economy, and people are going to spend more, so that retail sales is going to go up, so.
I will say that several years ago, the legislators changed the point of sale on internet sales. So when you ordered something from Caldwell County, popped your zip code in there, that sales tax came back to Caldwell County. It didn't go to Charlotte or wherever that warehouse was, i.e. Amazon or Best Buy or whatever you did. And so that's one of the reasons why we've been able to fuel our expansion or keeping up with our patrol cars and ambulances and employee compensation, because we've received a great deal of that type of sale tax, which was great. That helped rural counties. I mean, Charlotte, Mecklenburg didn't like it too much, but rural counties like Caldwell and Burke and Wilkes, yeah, it was a great benefit. So we just need to take that another step and maybe incorporate some of the ideas that you had. I totally agree. To take the burden off the property tax owner. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else this evening?
Wood makes knives.
All right. Well, again, we appreciate everyone's comments, and we're taking them to heart, as I know that each one of the commissioners have already expressed that. But we certainly appreciate your interest in it, and we'll be working on the budget as we move along. So thank you again for being here. Next is Josh Angle, and again on tax liens on real property. So thank you folks for being here.
Yeah.
He's Tyler Sanders. He used to be a police officer in the city of Lenore, but now he's a state trooper.
It's me again. This item is in accordance with General Statute 105-369. I'm reporting the number of accounts and dollar amounts of unpaid taxes for 2024 liens on real property. The following number have been revised as of today and may differ from the number you received before this meeting. The total number of outstanding accounts for 2024 is 5,220. The sum of these accounts is $2,672,865.75. An alphabetical listing of these accounts is available in the county tax office. I come before the board this evening to report this information and to request the authority to advertise the 2024 property tax liens.
All right, so here in the presentation by Mr. Angle, we have 5,220 delinquent accounts amounting to $2,672,865.75. And I'll make a motion that we start the process of the liens on real property to get our funding in for the county. Any other discussion or comment? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that carries as well. So, thank you, Josh.
Good job tonight, bud.
Yeah.
Earn your keep.
Next is an item for decision, and one that some of my fellow commissioners and I have been talking about, and we know that with the upcoming budget and the things that are going on there, would like to implement a hiring and reclassification freeze Our county attorney has sent us a resolution for consideration this evening, and I'll just read that quickly. But whereas pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 153A76, the Caldwell County Board of Commissioners hereinafter the board may create, change, abolish, and consolidate offices, positions, departments, boards, commissions, and agencies of the county government, may impose ex officio the duties of more than one office or in a singular office, may change the composition and manner of selection of boards, commissions, and agencies, and may generally organize and reorganize the county government in order to promote orderly and efficient administration of county affairs, subject to limitations as established by law. And whereas pursuant to Article 14 of Chapter 105 of the North Carolina General Statutes, Caldwell County has conducted a reappraisal of real property as required by law. And whereas the board intends to approve a budget ordinance in June of 2025, at which time the board intends to approve a real property tax rate as required by law. And whereas the board wishes to ensure the county's expenses are kept as low as predictable as reasonably as possible, while also maintaining critical county services. And whereas the board wishes to continue to maintain fiscal responsible budgets for the county so as not to overburden the taxpayers of Caldwell County, therefore, pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 153A76 and other applicable laws, the Caldwell County Board of Commissioners issue the following policy and directive, which shall remain in full force and effective until further resolution of the board. Number 1, no new employee may be appointed, hired, or retained. Number 2, new positions may not be allocated. Number 3, departments may not be reorganized. Number 4, salary plans or pay grade plans may not be modified or revised. Number 5, the current classification plan may not be modified. And number 6, no current employees may be reclassified. Number 7, current salary ranges and schedules may not be modified or revised. Number 8, merit increases and longevity plans shall continue in full force and effect. Number 9, this resolution shall not apply to the Caldwell County Sheriff's Office, Register of Deeds, County Board of Elections, Public Health Department, or Department of Social Services. However, the county may not reduce or modify the allocation of positions for these entities. And number 10, the county manager, assistant county managers, human resource directors, supervisors, managers, and their designees shall take all necessary steps to implement this resolution as adopted in this meeting on the 10th day of February 2025 and is effective immediately. Do I hear a motion that we adopt this resolution?
So moved.
And with the motion, is there any discussion or comment? All right, hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. And that brings us then to our consent agenda this evening. And Mr. Wayne Rice, Assistant County Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, we'll quickly go through the items on the consent agenda. Number 9, budget revisions for Health Department additional Helene funding. What this is new funding from the state that has been received by the Health Department for hurricane mitigation. This budget revisions allows those funds to be put into the budget and spent. I think they've put those into salary, supplies, contractual as an area just to park those for now, and we'll be using those for Health Department related expenses in the future. Number 10, Health Department Community Care Physician Network grant funding. This is a budget revision that also allows the Health Department to use grant funds, these coming from the Community Care Physician Network. 100% grant funds, no local match. 14,000 of this was received in a prior fiscal year, so it shows as a fund balance appropriation just to carry it into this year so that money can be spent. The next one is number 11, the 911 Emergency Telephone Fund, Motorola Maintenance. This is a budget revision that covers the costs of a maintenance contract that we have with Motorola for our consoles that are in the communications office. It also covers an upgrade to those radios. It's billed once every 3 years, so therefore it wasn't put into the budget this year. This money is paid for out of the 911 fund, so it doesn't take anything out of the
fund balance to do that. No local tax dollars are spent. That 911 fund, of course, as you gentlemen know, is funding from the state. Number 12, budget revisions from administration, the interim manager salary. What this budget revision does is appropriate funds from fund balance to cover the cost of creating the new assistant county manager position, which you guys did at the last meeting. And then also going forward for the month of March, we do have to pay out vacation balance to an existing county manager, and also to cover that cost of the interim manager for that time. Obviously, after that time, there'll be a cost savings there for the county. The next item is number 13, which is from the Sheriff's Office, a request to submit an application for the Governor's Crime Commission grant, and that is, again, they want to submit this application, the Governor's Crime Commission grant. It has a funding cap of $75,000 per year. It's a 2-year life cycle grant, so the total would be $150,000. The purpose of this grant would be to achieve NCLEA accreditation for the Sheriff's Office. It's a zero match grant, so there's no budget impact to the local county budget. Then the next one is, let's see, that was the Crime Commission one. Yes, the next one is number 14. Request to submit application for Governor's Highway Safety Grant, and that one is, so currently the Sheriff's Office does not have any traffic safety units or teams, and they don't have the manpower to assist in enforcing traffic violations. And so what this grant would do would reimburse the county 85% for the funding used on manpower such as overtime that would be used for these operations. No budget impact should the grant not be approved, and but they're hoping to get that approved so they would be able to assist in enforcing traffic violations in the county. And then the last one from the Sheriff's Office is number 15, a request to submit application for our Rescue ESD K-9 grant. And this would be a grant application again so that they could have the acquisition of an ESD K-9 unit. And if we need more information about that, I'm sure the sheriff can help us provide that. The only impact for our budget would be the dog handlers' per diem rates for meals and wages for hours worked in training. And then, of course, if there was anything like an emergency vet visit or things like that for the animal. The next item is number 16, the DSS Work First Block Grant. As you gentlemen know, some years back, this state gave counties the option of becoming an electing county in this workforce block grant program. Caldwell County is one of 7 counties that took advantage of that. It's been a very highly beneficial program for our county and does require folks to begin looking for work if they're getting benefits from our county. And so this is renewing that grant for the next 2 years in that particular item. And let's see, the next one is number 17, ratification of rescinding the winter storm state of emergency. And that was, the board needs to ratify that decision, and that was rescinded at 1200 hours on January the 24th, 2025. Number 19, the appointment of myself to the Transit Authority. Typically, the county manager is a part of that Transit Authority. Currently, Mr. Duncan is a part of that, and this would be for me to fill that seat for the duration of time of serving as interim manager. Number 20 would be appointments to the Board of Equalization and Review. As Mr. Engel talked about tonight, that we do, it is that time of year to appoint a Board of Equalization and Review to look at the property appeals, and the folks who have agreed to serve on that are Mr. William B.J. Four, who will serve as a board chair. With your approval, Mr. Phil Case, Mr. Wayne Parson, Mr. Thomas Larry Andrews, Mr. Jeff Rowland, Mr. David Weichter, and Bobby Price, Mr. Bobby Price. So that is for the Board of Equalization Review. The next one is appointments to the Council of Aging. And those folks who have agreed to serve on that, Mr. Jordan Jeffries James, Kevin Amos, Kathy Hoyle Graves, and Candace Simmons are the requested names to be appointed to that. You do have, of course, a copy of the approval of minutes, of your minutes for approval in the consent agenda. And then, of course, the final one is the appointment of Ms. Heather Cox as Deputy Finance Director for the purposes of signing purchase orders, no additional monies being spent with that appointment as well. So that's the consent agenda tonight.
All
Be happy
right.
to answer any questions.
Here in the consent agenda, do I hear a motion that we approve it as presented?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as outlined by our Assistant County Manager.
All right, any other comments, questions, or discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries unanimously. And that brings us to the end of our meeting, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you again for being here, and thank you to those that have watched the meeting, so have a good evening.
How come we don't want to waste